Hi, this is Nathan. Welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we're here this week to talk about episode 702 of Adventures in Odyssey called Childish Things.
We don't need a guest. I am here to represent all children.
Well, there's that. It's an episode that originally aired on December 17th of 2011. It's the final track on the Clanging Cymbals and the Meaning of God's Love album. And it was written and directed by Mr. Paul McCusker.
Yeah, this episode, I have many a feeling about the decisions made.
We'll get into it.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Do we have any notable?
It's an episode.
It's an episode.
It was
25
originally
minutes.
titled A Penny for Your Thoughts, which would be because it's Penny, and she's trying to figure out people's thoughts. Good title. Instead, they were like, this is a concept album about 1 Corinthians 13, and so we're going to call it Childish Things.
Yeah, like what?
Even though we previously on this same album had A Penny Saved and A Penny Earned, which did not require that caveat.
Nope.
This one, it's like, no, we're just going to call it Childish Things. That'll make sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's the old last track. We can do something different with it and be like, concept.
I mean, I think a lot of the other tracks on this album are titled that way.
I mean, obviously, it's been a long time since I've heard the album. I do remember listening through, I think, pretty much all of these episodes before. I don't know if they go quite as hard with the theme on all the other episodes, but they definitely do on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the other two that we talked about didn't really.
No, certainly not. But they were very plot and character-oriented, and obviously, we're covering them in the Green Ring Conspiracy Aftermath, so that's more so the central point.
Yeah, and it's light green ring, but you know.
Yeah.
This also is
a sage green, if you will. Like the color of Dylan's walls. Actually, those are...
They're pretty dark green.
Yeah, it's like a lily pad. Or what shade of green would you say that is? I'm trying to paint a word picture for
forest.
Forest green? Works for me.
Okay.
It's like Forest Mountain.
Of course. The other thing about this episode is that the version currently available on the AIO Club and that was released on the CD album is an extended version.
Oh, okay.
The broadcast version didn't include the Harlow Doyle scene, and a couple other lines here and there were kind of cut out.
Trimmed down.
Because, it's one of those where it's like, we didn't in any way need...
Yeah, Harlow Doyle's joke about paintings.
Yeah, but we got it.
That we did, and I'm not that upset about it. I mean, it was kind of fun.
I mean, that's fair. On the concept of voice actors, we don't have anyone who we don't talk about constantly on this episode, or that we haven't talked about in the last couple episodes.
It's very trim, this episode, as far as who's involved.
Yeah, and obviously we get Will Ryan playing Harlow Doyle, which, it had been a little bit since we've gotten Harlow Doyle, but also he's been on other this isn't his first New Odyssey episode, nor is it his last, because the man makes a 4-episode appearance in The Ties That Bind.
And that's his last?
No, he's been in stuff since then as well.
I'm very curious as to what Harlow Doyle has to contribute to focus on the family's values of family.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm okay with never finding out.
We'll never find out.
Some things are best to remain a mystery.
Amen. So, with that all being said and set up, I'm going to go ahead and roll the promo, if that's cool with you, Andrew.
Be my guest.
Next time on Adventures in Odyssey, Penny has a new idea.
I want to know how to trust people, and body language is a good indicator.
You understand, of course, the so-called body language isn't always reliable.
Ooh, hands on hips, defiance.
The only question is, how long can her friends take it?
Why are you creeping around?
I'm afraid Penny will read my body language.
Don't miss the next adventure in Odyssey.
Well, that's the plot of the episode.
Yep.
There's not much more to say.
Nope.
This does kind of feel like I mean, I get it. It's a moral story, but it feels like a very nothing episode because of how limited the cast is and, like, how focused it is regarding the biblical themes.
Yeah, well, it's a thing we talk about a lot on this show where it's an episode that only has an A-plot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is one of the reasons that the fact that this is, like, there's a longer cut on the club. I'm just like, why? Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, it is, like, we are just following Penny. There are a couple scenes where she's not there, but everything is surrounding her.
Yeah, and they're talking about her when she's not there.
Yeah. And I feel like, yeah, so often, like, I mean, even, like, you don't even have, for the most part, have, like, sitcoms and stuff that are doing 20-minute episodes. Rarely is it focused on just one story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, there's usually a couple things that get interwoven together, and Odyssey does that as well. Mm-hmm. And so it sticks out a little bit, and I think it does make this episode feel like it has less substance.
Yeah.
Because it is just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It also, like, the point it's trying to drive home, I don't think is
worthy
interesting or well articulated.
Yeah, yeah. I fully agree with that take. I mean, yeah, it's based around the, putting away childish things. And
I guess.
Maturing. Yeah, but
it's
not
only
really.
based around that because Penny keeps saying it.
Yeah.
But, like, it feels like a buzzword that was shoehorned in after they had already written the script.
Yeah, and the script was Penny doesn't know who to trust, so she leans on body language, which, I mean, you could just cut and paste astrology with body language, and we would have something that I have had a lot of experience with. Like, I don't trust you, you're a Sagittarius, get out of here. Actually, that's never been the case. Sagittariuses, I feel like, are pretty well
Andrew,
regarded.
we cannot go down this path.
I know. I don't even know your star sign.
The episode starts out with French music because I guess, sure.
Naturally. I mean, Jacques-Henri is somewhere in here.
He really is.
And his accent is kind of French.
Yeah. So here's my biggest struggle with this episode, which I think is clear that we're not huge fans of it. Mm-hmm. But the idea that Penny would be struggling with who to trust after Trask is a brilliant observation on the part of the show writers, is a really interesting thing to try and interrogate, and then they just don't.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we just had like this really interesting observation about what Penny would be doing. What if we make like a goofy episode in which we kind of gamify this concept?
Yeah. We just like turn it into a sketch comedy bit where she is going around bumbling up with the yokels in Odyssey.
Yeah, and it's tough because like
it's a valid concern.
She should be feeling these things. But then they just, like, go cartoon with her response.
Mm-hmm. They go really cartoon with her response.
Oh, yeah. And there are fun moments along the way. But it's just, like, I wish we had, like, actually interrogated this in a meaningful way rather than just like, oh, isn't Penny so goofy?
Look at her being goofy and oblivious and still being goofy and oblivious and 18 minutes in still being goofy and oblivious.
Man, isn't it so fun when she's a naive child? That's what we want from our characters, right?
Yeah, our adult characters. I mean, I think my favorite part about this episode for sure, and we'll probably, get into it more later, but I think that by Penny being a little bit more caricaturized, you get some liberties for Eugene and Wooten and Connie to be more comedic than maybe they have been previously in the series. So, like, we get some really good Wooten lines this episode, and Eugene's well and funny. And Connie is a good voice of reason, at least, or at least she tries to be.
This is a pretty good Connie episode, and we'll get into that later. But like, that is one of the things that I don't think is a particular shortcoming in this episode. But yeah, so Penny's looking for a crash course in trust. And she turns to a self-help book because, boo, self-help books.
They're so bad for you.
Look at this great straw man we created here.
Yeah. He's made of straw.
And Connie is not at all helpful in this scene in a way that bothers me. Where she's just kind of like, well, you can just, like, you should just trust people because you should trust them. And, like, yeah, okay. Like, I wish she did more to comfort Penny and to rein her in.
But you can't have Kenny. You can't have Penny go full, cartoon if she's not kind of spurred on.
Right.
Unfortunately.
I'm aware. And so, yeah, we go to this scene at Wits End then after that, and Eugene, like, comes in and is talking, like, Penny's talking to Connie about, like, body language and whatnot, and then Eugene shows up and she decides to, like, show off with all of her analyzation, and she freaks Eugene out, in a way that, like, is funny.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing where it's, like, he turns... Like, I think it's better set up throughout the episode, but the point at which he turns is when she says that, like, oh, you're, like, in the 2-foot zone, which means, like, you're, good friends with Connie, and then Eugene starts to get weird, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Do we really need, like, I would never be friends with Connie?
Blah. Yeah.
Like,
that's boring.
No,
the thing that I really care about is Eugene only enters the scene because he's looking for a list of the tally of mean temperatures for the freezer.
Yep.
Which is, I suppose, useful. And it does, when I listened to it the first time, it does solidify something that we brought up previously, that Eugene does kind of work at Wits End. Or at least does something relatively important to the maintenance of the shop.
Yeah. And because he's Eugene and a nerd, the man can't say average. He must say mean. Because he's in a math class.
And the numbers are very angry. Sorry, Dylan. Please
nope,
forgive
that's
me.
fine. It was a joke. We're good with jokes here. The book Penny's reading is called Don't Get Fooled Again.
It's my favorite Fleetwood Mac song. But it's
my favorite George Bush quote.
Woo. Got him.
But yeah, we go to, it's then we're at the cafe. I don't know. I'm just gonna breeze through scenes and stop me if I'm going too fast. But like, there's not a lot here.
No, yeah. I mean, at the very end of that scene, so Eugene is uncomfortable by Penny. Connie recognizes this and is like, I don't know, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, you be careful. And Penny's walking out and kind of yelling as she's walking away, like, of course I'm being careful. That's why I've got the book. And, I mean, that did make me laugh a little bit, but also, like, is very frustrating because it does feel very cartoony. And then, yeah, the next scene is Penny and Wooten at lunch.
Yep. And yeah, and
we got a vegetarian pot roast.
Yep.
Which is only adequate with a side of hamburger, according to Wooten, which is very funny. I appreciate it.
It is funny. I agree.
And I don't hate vegetarian chili, at least. I don't know if I've ever had vegetarian pot roast, but vegetarian chili can be very good.
Yeah, it's just weird to have a roast that doesn't have meat, I think is the joke.
Is it, though? Is it weird? It's 2021.
Sure. But like the idea of a pot roast is fundamentally meat. So
yes.
Like I think that's the joke they're trying to make. Whether or not it's a good joke, I'll let you guys decide. But that is the point of that line. And so, yeah. And just immediately you're like, oh, like going into this scene,
You know
exactly what's going to happen, because it's like we've been dancing around the fact that like Wooten's got feelings, but he doesn't want to own them, and Penny just very quickly read Eugene, and it's like, oh, she's gonna read Wooten, and it's gonna be like, and he's not gonna be comfortable with it.
Yeah, and he's gonna get flustered, and that's exactly what happens.
It really is.
And she pulls the whole like, whoa. So Wooten asks her like, what would other people looking at us on this date, getting lunch, air quotes, what would they think about it? And Penny, being naive, of course, says like, oh, I think that we're good friends, or maybe even in love. And then that obviously makes Wooten really uncomfortable because he is in love with Penny, and he ends up getting friend zoned, and then Penny starts reading his body language, and it makes him even more uncomfortable. And then, you know, Wooten expresses that choosing between salad and pasta is always an issue of great anxiety for him, and that's really the theme of the episode. And I don't get it. They're very different things. I always choose pasta pretty much over salad. But
what about a pasta salad?
That is a nice halfway, and it often involves salad dressing. Yeah, I like a good pasta salad. How do you feel about pasta salad, Dylan?
Not really my thing.
Masa menos, yeah, that's fair. Do you people watch though? Like when you go out and eat, like do you look at other people's tables and be like, I wonder what's going on there?
Occasionally, but not like as a habit or as a thing that I'm like actively thinking about.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I've done it since COVID. If that makes sense. I remember doing that a lot more in high school because me and my friends used to hang out at a diner a lot. And, you know, you could always pretend like what was going on at the other tables. But
yeah, it's a fun bit. But
yeah.
But yeah. So
Penny, of course, after all of this, comes to the conclusion that she can't trust Wooten because he's flustered.
Right.
Which is
he
absolutely
starts like
ridiculous.
hiding himself in the menu and just like really freaking out. She's like, how can I trust someone who's hiding things? And it's just like, oh, right, you are a naive child. Great.
But we do get Wooten's lip trumpets where he goes, which is funny.
Fair enough.
Cartoon sound make me go, haha.
Yeah. And then we have a scene with the next scene is with Wooten and Connie at back at Wit's End, and no wait, that's later.
It's Penny and Connie. Penny comes in and is like, I can't trust Wooten. I just had lunch with this guy and he was so shifty. And Connie's like, you're being ridiculous. It's Wooten of all people.
Right.
Also, I know that he has a crush on you.
Right. And then Penny's like, well, what time is it, Connie? I gotta go to this meeting with Jacques Henri.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. And she's like, oh, Bo, that meeting that Wit just left 15 minutes for, or 15 minutes ago. And she's like, and then she runs out.
But we've previously established that it is right down the street from Wit's End.
Yeah, Wit must walk really slowly. Or maybe he was planning on, like, taking some prayer time before going in. That's a good excuse.
There you go. That sounds on brand.
Yeah. And then out from behind the counter, presumably, pops out Eugene like a whack-a-mole.
Like, oh, she's gone. Good.
I can finally get some work done without her analyzing my body language, which makes him apparently very uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's tough to be seen.
It is. Being perceived. Lots of people don't like it. And then we go to the meeting with Jacques Henri.
Right, we get a little bit before Penny gets there of Wit, basically just establishing the fact that he has a contact lens that is causing him some issues.
Which, I've had contact lenses. Very easy, very understandable. I feel you, brother. It is not fun.
Yep. And then Penny walks in and immediately doesn't trust him because his eye is twitching. And then she walks out.
Yeah, she storms up, like, she gets super upset, and she's like, I can't trust you, and Jacques is obviously taken aback by it, and then she storms out, and then Jacques calls his assistant to get a wire brush to remove his contacts.
Yeah, as someone who doesn't need, or who doesn't like eyes, that really
I don't like
threw
eyes
me.
either, and I have to poke around mine far more than I care to.
Yeah. They we then go back to Wit's End, where Wooten is like hiding from Penny. And he's talking through Connie, and he's just like, and it's just kind of setting up this whole, like, they really need to, like, have a conversation about what their relationship is, Wooten and Penny do. But
Talking about
Wooten's
feelings.
like, look, like, she's in a really vulnerable place, in this place of transition right now, and I don't know if what I'm feeling is what she's feeling, and I don't want to put that on her right now. And, yeah, that was real.
I mean, feelings are risky, and not being sure when to pull the trigger, as far as, like, you definitely feel like you're on the same page, but in the off chance you aren't, then you're really, up a creek without a paddle.
Oh, yeah, and you add to that, like, hey, we're kind of in, like, slightly different places in our lives right now, and I'm not sure, like, that I want to spring this on her right at this moment because she's going through a lot. It just, it's a well-constructed premise.
Is Wooten older than Penny, you think?
I think so. I get the feeling that Penny is the same age as Connie, essentially, and Wooten's always seemed a little bit older than Connie.
Yeah, like 4 years, 5 years, maybe.
If that.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Time's weird in Odyssey.
Connie
might catch up to Wooten eventually.
Yeah, we can hope. I would love a flashback episode of, like, Wooten and Connie in high school together. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, Wooten moved to Odyssey at some point. Like, he grew up in Alaska.
Well, I mean,
where his friend had a bunker and also a freight train car.
Yeah, and his dad has his grandpa has a really fun chair. There's that episode.
There's also the whole thing with Grady not knowing what a moose is.
Yeah.
It's a large animal with antlers and hooves. It's the joke from those episodes.
Moose are truly terrifying animals. They need to be nerfed. Like, they need to be taken down a notch. They're enormous.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the size of cows, and they're a moose.
No, yeah, and moose are like twice the size of cows. Yeah. And they're smart. And they've got horns. Well, cows have horns. Bigger horns. Much bigger horns.
Bulls have horns.
Bulls have horns. Cows are female. Okay. Dylan knows. Dylan lives on a farm.
I mean, I know. Wooten is still standing there. Penny walks in, and she's talking more about Jacques here.
Yeah, she's upset because she can't trust him, because Connie's probably like, oh, how did it go? And she's like, oh, I couldn't trust him. I had to say no. Connie's like, what? We just had a whole episode leading to how exciting it is for you to have a position here, and you come in and say no, which is another reason to be upset at Penny.
She was like, man, his eyes were going crazy. It was like he was blinking Morse code, and I was like, McCusker.
Yeah.
you trying to reference Tasha here?
Yeah. We bringing Tasha back?
Is this intentional, sir?
Yeah, I'd be okay with it.
Stumble into that.
TA418?
Yeah. And Wooten's got some just like great his breath one-liner, like, where he's like, I'm buying sunglasses.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's previously established that he wants a spacesuit so that she can't read his body language. She walks in, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm not changed yet. And then the conversation happens and they start talking about
that's
glasses.
The I'm not changed yet joke. I could not figure out why he said I'm not changed yet. And it's a reference to the spacesuit joke.
Yeah. It's like, oh no.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, he's talking about needing contact lenses, and then Eugene's like, I wear spectacles. And the Wooten's like, I'm buying sunglasses.
Yeah. And then she's like, look, Penny, like, this isn't going well. Like, Eugene and Wooten are afraid to see you because you think, like, for fear that you'll misread their expressions, and Penny's like, they are? And Eugene's like, well, fear is extreme. Maybe, like, anxious or nervous or something. And then Connie's like, all right, Wooten? And he's like, no, fear's the right word.
Yeah, fear.
I think fear sounds perfect.
Yeah, fear works for me. Yeah, and this is a great Connie moment, I would say. Like when when Eugene is made uncomfortable, and I think he's trying to run away in this scene. Connie's like, Eugene, get back here. We're having this conversation.
Right.
Like her vocal tone shifts, and it's like, okay, we need to have a talk here.
Yeah, and I love that it's Connie
and-
who makes all this happen. Like, Wit's there in the scene, but Connie is the one who, like, directs all of this in a way that is really great.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And then Connie makes the point that trust isn't, like, paint by numbers. Like, you can't just prescribe it because it's unique to everybody, and Penny hates paint by numbers, so, of course, that analogy works very well. And, yeah. So then Penny is going to go back to Jacques-Henri to hopefully salvage the art exhibition. And she's worried that he'll be offended, and cut dramatically to Jacques being very upset about not getting to grovel for her work.
Yep. Good bit.
Which is really funny. Yeah. He goes through, it's like, it's customary in art traditions that the temperamental artist throws a tantrum, they run out, and the gallery owner has to grovel for the right to show her work.
Yep.
And it's very funny. It made me laugh. Both times I listened to the episodes.
Yeah.
Actually, 3 times.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is a 3-episode prepper. Not worth it.
No, absolutely not. I did it once, and that seems like too many.
Yeah. Well, and I remember going to prep for it this morning being like, I've already listened to it twice. And I know I fell asleep last night during the second listen through, but I feel like I get the gist of what happened.
Yeah. And then, then we have our final scene. They're at the art gallery. Harlow Doyle is there, wants to buy a piece called Blue that has no blue in it, which is funny.
Totally real. I feel like I've seen that painting.
Yeah, for sure. Jack and Joanne are there. We don't actually hear them, but Connie references them, which is really sweet.
Yeah.
Because I love Jack and Joanne. And
yeah.
Up till this point, they had not appeared in New Odyssey. They will make a slight appearance before both passing away. Actor-wise. They retire to Scotland, but
yeah, that's right.
The actors
passed away.
Yeah.
And Penny has a conversation with Wooten because Wooten is excited that they have cheese balls there, and Penny's like, "Oh well, I didn't think that you'd come if I didn't get those secured," which is cute. And Penny then apologizes to try and get apologizes for being ridiculous, and then is still kind of flirting around this idea of like, what do you feel about me? Like, where are the feelings there? And Wooten is obviously very uncomfortable with it because, of course, he is.
And Penny says the adorable, "Be my friend forever, okay?"
Yeah, be my friend forever, which is really sweet and wonderful. But also, you can hear Wooten's heart drop when he hears that, and he feels for him. And my heart drops hearing that, being like, "No." Friend zone, Wooten.
Yes, the friend zone, a very real thing that we need to keep perpetuating.
Yeah. We can talk about it later. I mean, it's not all roses.
And then
being friends with somebody isn't a bad thing, though. Certainly not.
No. And then there's a quick conversation between Wit and Penny where they see a graphic that Penny made with the Childish Things verse on it. And Wit scoffs at the $250 price. And I'm like, Wit, you're so rich.
Yeah, you're so rich. You own an encyclopedia company, and it's a Bible verse. I feel like of all the art in the world, that this would be something you would be comfortable spending money on.
And then he's
it's
like, well,
Penny.
Yeah. No, I'll just like flip open my Bible and read it there.
Ha ha ha. End episode.
Yeah. No, but no, because it doesn't quite end there, because they have the fantastic thing of just Wit being like, kind of just being like, I think like she's on a road to getting this figured out, and Wit says, with you as her roommate, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Which is so sweet.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, oh, this is a good Connie episode.
And it's a good win episode because he knows it's a good Connie episode.
Yeah.
He gets out of the way. He doesn't assert himself. Yeah. There's also a really good line from Wit about Penny, kind of talking to Jacques about how naive she is and being like, well, she has a childlike heart, but I hope she never loses that. And Jacques' like, oh yeah, and then all true artists have a childlike wonder, which I think is really wonderful to bring up. And when you think about like everything the Bible talks about being like kids and like what does that even mean, I think about that sense of wonder and maybe dependency, and I like I like how that comes in here.
Yeah, and that's the whole freaking episode.
That's it, and it's 25 minutes. That's all that happens.
Yeah, and there's one discussion question asking if Penny was wrong to study body language.
No?
Misguided, sure, but not wrong.
No, it's not morally wrong to study body language.
No.
And body language is important. Yeah. Supplemental. I mean, it's really, really helpful in how it can inform you, like, especially with counseling. Body language is very, very important.
I don't think it's the sole thing you should go on, but it should definitely inform it. And for what it's worth, up until the Jacques-Henri point, Penny was, like, maybe she wasn't interpreting stuff 100% correctly, but she was reading people very well. Why Eugene was uncomfortable, and then Wooten was uncomfortable. She needs to be like self-aware and not do it in that manner, but but it's not like a bad skill to have.
No, certainly not. And it is very helpful to clue you into maybe the mental space of where somebody else is at, and asking somebody if that they look uncomfortable is like a nice and caring thing to do, which he does with Jacques-Henri. It's just it turns into her throwing a temper tantrum. Right, for sure. So.
And then that's the episode. There's nothing else here.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. We absolutely didn't need to cover this one, but we did.
But we did. Was this one of the ones that we considered dropping?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
And then we didn't.
But I wouldn't have heard Wooten's lip trumpets if we had.
Yeah, so. It's nice. It's nice to have something lighter in the mix, and whatever.
Break it up.
I'm not going to feel bad about having covered this.
No, certainly not. And because there is, I think, from my perspective, looking at what has happened with Penny and Wooten as a result of this episode, I'm hoping that it informs future Penny Wooten arc stuff that hopefully we cover with Green Ring. So, there's probably something important there that we just don't know yet.
I could be wrong, but I don't think Penny or Wooten are going to be in any of the other Green Ring episodes we cover.
Gasp.
Yep.
My heart has sunk deeply. But not that deep. We've had a lot of Penny and Wooten.
yeah, and if we ever want to do a Penny and Wooten arc, we've now kind of set it up here.
Yeah.
So maybe someday we'll cover all the Penny and Wooten stuff. But yeah, Andrew, anything you feel like plugging this week?
Spend some time outside, soak up some vitamin D, enjoy the summer. Take care of yourself. That's what I'm plugging. Some self-care.
Cool. I'm going to ditto that.
Yeah.
And then I also have a new review to read.
Ooh.
This review comes from Alexandra, 531. It just says, awesome podcast. As a teen who happens to still be into Odyssey, I have listened to numerous Odyssey podcasts, and this one is definitely one of the bests. I love everything from their mature perspectives, unique input, humorous quips, and inside jokes. Their podcast is certainly worth listening to.
Aw, thanks.
Thanks.
That's a really nice compliment. That make my heart all warm and fuzzy inside. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chalk Squad, you're the best. I should post on Instagram more. I feel like that's how I pay you back for being nice.
There you go. And we will be back next week to talk about episode 703, The Labyrinth, Part 1.
Bye, guys.
You're gonna get lost in this labyrinth of lies. Bye.
WadFam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. Follow the podcast at WadFam Chalk Pod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. Childish Things was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Acebo, and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us again next time for more of the WadFam Chalk Pod.